Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the beginning of the school year. Catherine, Esme, and myself are present here in the district office. Vadim is online. Alex is absent, and welcome to Kapil, who will be introduced later. And please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, now we have approval of the meeting agenda. This
Special session.
We have a special session then.
yes, we do have a special session, but the agenda says we are.
It was reprinted.
Oh, it's reprinted. All right, that's fine then. Well, let's go on to the special session. I have an old copy.
Oh, sorry about that.
Okay. All right, let's move on to our special session.
Essentially, I'd want to get the board's input on a longstanding practice in MVLA of awarding credits for participation in extracurricular athletics, CIF, SCVAL, athletics. According to our own administrative regulation and according to the Ed Code, extracurricular activities should not be during the school day and should not have credits awarded to them. So it is contrary to the Ed Code. You actually have a copy of that Ed Code in this packet right here. You have a draft communication to the MVLA communities noting that we had discovered this last year. One thing that will not change is students that are in 7 classes freshman year will still be allowed to not participate in PE. And students that participate in 2 or more sports will not have to do the second year of PE. They will be exempted. That is consistent with your policy. However, because we've been doing it for 20 years, without making a drastic change, I wanted to make sure the board was aware and get the board's thoughts on it. Potential challenges: if we were to receive money based upon our attendance, we could have some financial penalties. Luckily, we don't. We're not an ADA-based district, so chances of that is slim. There could be, though, a uniform complaint to the CDE for awarding credits for courses that have not yet been approved by the board, awarding credits for courses that not everyone could take because there are cuts in teams, or potentially even having credits taken away from students in athletics after a complaint to the CDE.
Sorry, I lost audio if you can hear me. Eric, your mic is out.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Now it is. Yes, yes.
Additionally, if we were to keep this practice, we would have to make some changes because each school site over time has awarded credits differently for freshman PE. Part of the challenge is that one school site awards PE credits and athletic credits, and one school site awards athletic credits and only 2.5 credits for freshman PE based upon the number of sports that they play. So if nothing else, we have to make sure that that piece is aligned. What say you?
Well, I've been around the district a long time and I always thought it was a really interesting formula or lack thereof. I have to say that I can understand why you don't have to take PE if you're doing some of these other things, but I do not feel you should be getting credit as per the law in terms of the CDE for a non-academic, school day item. So I think the adjustment is appropriate.
And just to confirm, Eric, that the adjustment would move us to have aligned practices across the district?
That is correct. The adjustment we would continue to allow students in ninth grade. They would be enrolled in ninth grade PE, which by law they have to. All ninth graders would take the PE fitness test, regardless of whether they're on a team or not, which we currently do. Students that have 7 classes their freshman year would be allowed to not participate in PE while they were in their sport. They're not excused from ninth grade PE. Students for their second year of PE would be exempted if they participate in interscholastic athletics. 1 semester is equal to 1 sport played. So their transcript would show sports PE, and then that way they would have credit. It would be acknowledged that they have met the PE graduation requirement in the terms of the exemption, but they would still have to pass 220 credits to graduate. One of the challenges is when we look at transcripts for 99.5% of our graduates, they don't need these athletic credits to meet graduation requirements, yet we don't have a practice in place or stopgaps to make sure that these credits if a student were to play 3 sports for 4 years, that these credits aren't pushing them over the graduation requirements.
Okay, Vadim, did you want to speak?
No, I am supportive. It's pretty clear that Ed Code does not allow credits to be given for sport activities. That is an outside school activity, even if it's peripheral, outside of instructional hours activity, even if it's done within the school boundary. So I support offering freshmen, not changing anything for freshman students and for sophomore students as well, with the exception of removing credits that are being offered as elective credits for just sport participation. I'm in agreement. Was that clear or not?
Can you repeat that last part, please?
So my understanding is that currently 2 schools do it slightly differently, but they offer an elective credit for sport participation besides allowing sophomore students not to attend second year PE.
That's correct.
And what we are doing is we're basically saying, okay, that you don't have to attend second year PE if you're doing sports at school, but you're not going to get any type of credit as an elective credit for doing sports. That's what we are removing from the current situation, from the current practice. Correct?
And you support that or don't support that?
I support that. I support
Okay.
that. I support removal of offering credit because to me, it's a clear violation of a net code. I think as a board and as a district, we have no choice. What we've been doing for 20 years was wrong, right? Or in violation as long as that net code has existed, which I don't know how long it existed. But anyway, the current practice seems to be in a clear violation of a net code. So to me, it's a no-brainer. We can't do it.
Full transparency, districts do this differently all over the place. For that second year, some will give credit. It'll be sports PE 5 credits. So it looks like they got credit, but it is for athletics, but it says sports PE on their transcript. So some districts do it that way. But spirit of the law, letter of the law, Vadim's comments, I think, is appropriate.
Since this is a study session, I'll just add, I agree with everything that's being said. We have to follow ed code and, we shouldn't be counting extracurriculars towards graduation requirements. I understand it's been happening for 20 years, but we have a lot of wonderful extracurriculars that our students spend a lot of time on. So I was surprised to hear about this. I could imagine a number of different people would come and say, well, why can't I get credit for this or that? Because they spend just as much time on their extracurricular activities. And I also agree that the same policy should apply to all schools. So we should offer 10 credits, as been mentioned, at both high schools
For freshmen, yes.
for freshmen. So yeah, I'm in agreement with everything. So
Okay, well, a big part of this study session was make sure you're not surprised with an administrative decision, especially because it's been happening for so long. So we now have the information we need to go forward. And we have 6 minutes to spare.
Right. Thank you. Well, I guess we have to wait until 7. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the beginning of the school year. Catherine, Esme, and myself are present here in the district office. Vadim is online. Alex is absent. Our two new board members are here. Welcome, Miley and Kapil. Superintendent Volta will introduce them more formally and administer their oath of office. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Next, we have approval of the meeting agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
All right. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Catherine, seconded by Esme. Can I take their votes yet, or do I have to wait? Okay, sorry, you'll have to wait till you're sworn in. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's 4-0. Okay. Let's see. Now we move on to 7.0 preliminary business, oath of office administered to the student board representatives.
But everybody.
Yeah.
Please hold up your right hand. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California. I take this obligation freely without mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Congratulations, you are now full-fledged student board member. And if you don't mind, please sign this so they have a record that you worked with us. And actually, for those that might not know, student board members are given their authority by the actual education code. They are elected by their peers to sit in these positions and to give advisory votes to the school board.
All right. Thank you, Superintendent Volta, and welcome Miley and Kapil again. We are really happy to have you this year, and we look forward to working with you both. So our next item is there was no action taken in closed session. And then I give our usual announcement that this board meeting is streamed and recorded on YouTube. Now we move on to 8.0 and 8.1. Board member reports. Please raise your hand if you have a board report. Okay, I do have one. It's a brief announcement. Registration for the 2026 Congressional App Challenge is now open. We invite our high school students and middle school students of partner districts to participate. The program welcomes students of all coding levels, including beginners, and provides resources to help students learn. For this year's challenge, Congressman Liccardo suggests students create an app that helps residents access vital state or local benefits and services. He welcomes students to learn more about federal agencies and the app challenge to inform submissions. So please go to his website for more information. And apps are due on October 26th at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Okay, so now we have 8.2, our student board member reports. Kapil from Mountain View High, will you begin?
Again, hello everyone. My name is Kapil Shastri, and I'm excited to serve as the Mountain View School Board representative for the 2026-2027 school year. Currently, Mountain View High School is in the midst of back-to-school preparations with many events. In the past few weeks, as well as upcoming weeks, our sports teams are doing preseason training with cross-country, football, and other sports conducting weekly practices. For our incoming freshmen, training started today with ASB ambassadors and others coming together to welcome our incoming class with pictures, textbooks, and fun activities. On Tuesday, we'll have the freshman orientation, the sophomore and junior orientations will be on Thursday, and the senior orientation will happen on Friday. Additionally, we'll welcome staff at the district kickoff at Los Altos High School this year on Wednesday. Finally, our Back to School Spirit Week is coming up in 2 weeks with Spirit Days and a fun-filled rally filled with performances and games. Mountain View High School is looking forward to a great 2026-2027 school year, and we look forward to working with the Board of Trustees.
Thank you, Kapil. Board, do you have any questions or comments? Please raise your hand. All right, seeing none, let's move on to Miley from Los Altos High School.
Thank you for allowing me to share what Los Altos High School has been working on as we get ready to head back to school. Over the past week, ASB and SEL attended Leadership Camp, where we planned WOW Week, our week of welcome, and organized activities to help students start the year feeling connected. Some of the activities we have worked on specifically in ASB are the ice cream social and the back to school rally. Each grade level also began preparing for homecoming week by brainstorming themes and ideas to make it an exciting experience for our student body. Thank you.
Thank you, Miley. Board, if you have any questions or comments, please raise your hand. All right, seeing none, let's move on to 8.3, the superintendent's report.
Welcome back. We'll kick it off on Wednesday, where we have everyone back for their first day on contract. This morning, HR did a wonderful job welcoming our brand new educators to the district. It was fun to see people excited to be an MVLA. A varied mix, some of relatively new teachers and some with a lot of experience. It was a great mix. Like to let the board know that we had another successful administrative retreat last week. Over the day and a half, in the last half, the second day, site teams were allowed to do their own work. But before that, we reviewed common language for multi-tiered systems of support so we could all be talking about the same thing. Each school site looked at a couple of their systems, talked about monitoring those systems, what those systems are supposed to address. And this is going to be something that we're going to be working on all year. A big piece of that is putting in place timely data checks to make sure that those systems are doing what we want them to be doing. And hopefully that will be completed by the end of this year. We also, each department within the district office reviewed some policies, practices, and general expectations. And then on the morning of the second day, we met with experts from Turnitin and Google and MVLA, thank you, Kip, to look at the AI landscape. We reviewed the CDE's model policy for AI. We talked about implications. We talked about how we can work with people to implement AI in an ethical, moral, productive way that will help our students and our educators get the most out of this new tool that we have. I would also like to pass along some kudos to Terry Fott, who over the summer created an MVLA process to award students the state seal of civic engagement. We have not had that yet. And Ms. Fott created that process. It'll give MVLA graduates the opportunity to be awarded yet one more feather to put in their caps. And this is something that's happening at a lot of other school districts. It's very similar to the state seal of biliteracy, only it's about government. And with that, we'll turn it over to well, I'll do the first one. We're going to go in alphabetical order by school. Unfortunately, Julie Vo couldn't be here tonight. So she wanted me to say that MVLA's adult schools back to school event will take place on the 10th, same day as the first day of school, from 8:30 to 1. They will have special guests, including Alan Kamei from the Mountain View City Council and Don Culliver, who is an author, trainer, and comedian. Also, President Corns will be there, as will Associate Superintendent Benson. Everyone is invited to attend. Their medical assistant cohort that completed over the summer achieved a 100% pass rate on the exam for medical assistants. Congratulations to Dr. Abaya and her students. And then the Certified Nursing Assistant program had its most successful run in 20 years since it was established in 2006. The program achieved a record-breaking 100% pass rate in skills and the highest ever achieved on the written portion of the exam at 95.5% passed. So that is from the adult school. And the next school up will be Alta Vista. Ms. Woolfolk.
Good evening, and thank you for the time. So we'll be speaking a little bit later about summer school, so I'll hold off there. That was a major to-do, as you can imagine, this summer. Specifically for Alta Vista High School, one thing I thought I'd highlight, at Alta Vista, we are wonderful, mighty, smaller staff, and 3 of the 11 staff at Alta Vista work in the office. Myself, along with Alba Garza and Debbie Red. Alba Garza, along with, I believe, William and others across all our campuses. You may have heard about the district kickoff for some of our families that is happening this Thursday. A lot of time has gone into this, and I always like to point out others that are doing things so exciting for our students. Alba Garza, who is my partner in crime at Alta Vista, in addition to calling all of our new families this last week and this week, Debbie, Alba, and I, Alba has been working hard to plan the back to school event that focuses for our McKinney-Vento families. There's a community resource fair. It happens at the Mountain View Teen Center. There's presentation about McKinney-Vento program. There's live music, prizes and raffles, school supplies, backpacks, many other things. So that's very exciting. And it was a great turnout last year as well. I just loved looking at those pictures, and I'm going to make my way over there this Thursday. As well, looking forward into this year, Alta Vista High School wanted to point out, I've been thinking about our upcoming time together, not only this week, which we're so thankful for, to have 2 professional development and working collaborative days together in addition to Teacher Work Day. We're looking towards September and our other half days coming through the year. And Alta Vista is hoping to continue our work, but in particular, we'll be focusing on our professional development with resilience by design. This is something that I've been co-designing with outside consultants that we have worked with in the past. But resilience by design is classroom routines that strengthen student well-being, engagement, and learning. It helps students and staff understand how stress, trauma, anxiety, belonging, mindset, hope, and emotional regulation impacts student behavior, mental health, and academic readiness, and helps us create and leave our professional development with classroom routines, rituals, language, and instructional practices that help students move through adversity, recover from setbacks, and repair relationships, which is a really important piece, and persist through challenge. So, thank you.
Los Altos High School, Dr. Ranieri.
Hello, good evening. Welcome, new board members. Great to see you here. So we are, like everyone else, excitedly preparing for another school year at Los Altos. We cannot wait to greet our new and returning students and staff. And our staff remains committed to providing students with a world-class academic experience, as well as providing meaningful opportunities to get involved, whether that's through clubs, athletics, performing arts, student leadership, or any other of the many activities that make Los Altos a vibrant place. As we begin the school year, our focus remains on creating the best learning experience for every student. And just as importantly, we are dedicated to building a school community where every student feels welcomed, valued, and connected. Today was our first scheduled pickup day for grades 10 through 12. And tomorrow we'll welcome our freshmen and our new students for a more thorough orientation. We also are inviting our freshman parents to an informational night tomorrow where they can meet the coaches. They can learn more about our school. And this is all meant to facilitate a smooth, less stress, I won't say stress-free transition from middle school to high school before classes begin on Monday. And we are really looking forward to a wonderful year of learning, growth, and connection. We're also looking forward to welcoming new staff and resuming our professional learning focus on best instructional practices to support our critical learner groups. We have a full day plan this Thursday with our team, and we're going to dive back into that work on best instructional practices, as well as outline and frame the year for our professional development. Today, we had 100 mentors, grades 10 through 12, who are preparing to lead 49 groups of freshmen and new students. They attended a day-long training with our activities director, and this is all to facilitate the orientation. It's very hard for the adults to be able to manage all that, so we have our students doing it, and I think it's probably more fun for everybody. So our goal is to connect our freshmen and new students with current students as soon as possible and meet new peers, again, to reduce that anxiety about starting at a new school as much as we can. And this includes, there were some groups that were specifically language supported groups for Spanish and Mandarin speakers, as well as having specially designed groups for students who may not be freshmen, but are grades 10 through 12 new to the school. Finally, as part of our freshman parent night, we want to help our parents learn how to get involved at Los Altos. So we have our PTSA, Athletic and Performing Arts Boosters, and the MVLA Foundation there to highlight the ways that parents can volunteer and participate in our programs. Thank you.
Mountain View High School, Dr. Glazier.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay? So I am so happy to see our students back. And the great thing about this district is that we have two amazing schools. And so I might as well just say ditto to all of the things that Dr. Ranieri just talked about. We also have our new family orientation tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. We have a separate fall sports night on Wednesday. I think there was a little bit of difference. So I want to talk about actually our construction that is going on our campus. We just opened 300 and 400 wing, and this is the first year that I can remember that no teacher is sharing a classroom. So everybody's super excited about that because there's something to be said. I mean, our teachers are very gracious and they're happy to share, but I think there is some pride in being able to decorate your wall and not having to share with somebody else. So our teachers are super excited, and I want to thank Mike Matheson and all of the behind the scenes folks like Elvis Lopez. I think there are a lot of operational things that are being taken care of behind the scene that we don't always see. And we often complain about the things that are not great, like the fences in the middle of the quad. But I think once it's all done, it's so great. And thank you, Mike. And I also want to thank Bob Fistrom for working really hard. We just got some new cameras on our campus and they were weathered and sun damaged or something like that. Bob told me, so we got some new upgrade to our infrastructure. And I think over the summer, we have had lots of staff members working diligently to make sure that our facilities are in great shape. And to add to that, we got delivered thousands of textbooks. I think we just latest delivery was 800 textbooks. And just to give you context, that means that it has to be barcoded. It has to be entered into the system. It has to be checked out. It has to be shelved. There's a lot of behind the scenes infrastructure and the labor intensive work that is happening. So I want to thank our custodial staff and textbook staff for making sure that our students will have books to pick up tomorrow. And lastly, we're also doing LPAC testing. So I want to thank Terry and the team. Taika is coming to our campus, and Sandra. Those folks are making sure that our students who are EL students are being placed in the right place. And I just want to say that they do such a great job of putting our parents' mind at ease and are trying to make sure that our students are not stressed. And we emphasize that if you don't do well on this test, it's okay. We can always retest. And I think those little details do make a difference. And who did I forget? I think Joanna also did a great job of like communicating with the parents. So I want to thank everybody for making this school year a great start of a new, exciting 5th year for me. Thank you.
Thank you. So since you, Bailey and Kapila are new, if I say, please raise your hand if you have any questions or comments, that includes you too. You are a part of this board. You get to vote just like, so I just want to make sure you know that. And now I'm going to say my usual thing, which is please raise your hand if you have any questions or comments. All right. Seeing none, we're going to move on to, do we have anyone from DTA or CSEA? I do not see anyone in the audience. Okay. So then we will move on to, do we have any public comments on items not on the agenda? No, we do not. All right, so then we're going to move on to 9.0, presentation of reports and information. So this is our reminder as we're starting the school year, and also for our new members, we agreed in our governance handbook to treat presentations as brief informational reports to the board, to not use presentations to signal directions to staff, to hold questions until the end of the presentation unless we decide otherwise, and to use presentations to build understanding, not to deliberate or reach consensus, and use presentations to build understanding and identify areas that may require follow-up, additional information, a study session, or a future action item. And first up, we have 9.1, 2026 Summer School Review presented by Director of Alternative Programs, Suzanne Wolfert.
Hello again. Thank you for taking time. I'm also joined by Jennifer Lewis, who's my summer school co-principal, and wouldn't want to do a single summer without her. And Julie Vo also added a few very helpful slides. We have 2 pieces, as you might recall, of summer school and MVLA in seat, which this year, thank you so much to Los Altos High School, who welcomed us and made it a very comfortable and safe and manageable environment. Our other hand is adult ed online, coursework, primarily health, but other subjects if pre-approved by counselors. So we're going to dive right in. And Jennifer is going to help me with the first slide.
The purpose of summer school is to help more of our students graduate on time. It's to allow more of our students to graduate with CSU or UC eligibility. And then it's also for our students with IEPs and extended school year service to continue services that are crucial to preventing the regression of skills learned during the school year. During the summer, we have two specialized programs, and these are not normally summer schools for kids who are trying to make up a D or F, but these two programs are for students to learn about the school in different ways. So we have our incoming 10th Freestyle Academy, which welcomed 52 students to 2.5 days worth of workshops exploring film, animation, and digital media. We also have the incoming 9th Summer Academy, which focuses on welcoming 62 incoming 9th graders to MVLA and also focused on four-year graduation planning, high school graduation requirement, and UC-CSU entrance topics. Equally as important, students have the opportunity to get to know future classmates in a small, supportive environment in a 6-day academy. And then lastly, we have the ESY program services. Were held in their regular school year locations this year versus moving to temporary summer school classrooms. This was a positive support for our life skills and our adult transition program students and continuity of services.
So while we're on the topics, I wanted to mention incoming 9th Summer Academy. Jennifer Lewis has been particularly creative, inventive, and collaborative in seeing this academy morph over the years, and it seemed to be highly popular. And we will be building on this sort of model of a 6-day learn what you can about the district and get excited for coming to a particular site, take some field trips to see your individual site, if not Los Altos High School, and build community. So that was I think we've hit the right spot where we are for incoming 9th Academy. And I know we'll have in a bit, our notes of appreciation, but to have our life skills and our adult transition program students and staff able to stay in that made us a 2-campus summer school, able to stay near or on Mountain View campus would not have been possible without Jennifer Smith and her staff. And we are so grateful. And I know our students and staff were as well. All right. So this year with our 89 staff members across 2 sessions, that was a mix of teachers, instructional aides, and nutrition. Of course, there was custodial staff as well. That is not necessarily considered part of the summer program in particular, but very appreciated. Number of courses and sections, 31 offered, including college prep core content classes, our special education courses, and essentials, and extended school year courses within special education, and credit recovery for potential summer graduates, meaning we did have a small handful of students that were depending upon summer school to be able to be the graduating class of 2026. So this gives us current year 2026 for summer. Session 1 open enrollment, for example, opened at 489. And then we'll show you in a moment how many were present. And then session 1 opened at 489 and closed at 292 students completing session 1. And session 2, always a bit smaller, but started with 400 and completed 207. So part of this factors in, yes, that if, as a reminder, if students are absent more than 6 hours, they won't be able to complete the instructional minutes needed to be able to award them 5 credits in a grade. And so that is, there are points throughout the 10-day session 1 and 10-day session 2 where teachers notify families and students that they are in danger of failing or can no longer pass, so that they don't stay for the entire 10 days if it's not possible to pass. Seems compassionate, and we want to make sure that they're knowing every single day how their progress is going, because every single day counts for multiple weeks of curriculum and showing knowledge. I like this slide for this year, number of students present. So example being in session 1, in the fall, actually there were upwards of 600 students that had D's or F's from fall grades across the district that could have been enrolled. Where we ended up on day 1 were that of those 600 plus, 489 had been enrolled, and that the process there was that counselors communicating and working with families and making sure the signups are just as they should be. And these were not necessarily electives. These were the grad requirements being offered in the in-seat summer school. So 489 were enrolled prior to day 1, 300 showed up. We love those 300, right? And the numbers narrow down, but you'll see day 2, it's higher than day 1. Every single student of the 489 that was absent had an individual personalized call. What's going on? How can we help? Where are you? It's summer school. And so we got a little bit of a boost, and it's nice to see that most students, if they could commit to the first 2 days working and submitting work and learning, they make it till the end. Session 2, I think 400 enrolled, 225, which we could have guessed by the close of session 1 who's still in town. At this point, we're right at June 24th, 25th, and it carries through till July. I think part of the success of in-seat summer school is as soon as graduation completes, as soon as we can set up shop for summer school, we open before families go out of town, before students get their summer jobs, to give most access to the greatest number of students. Here are our courses offered this year across English, math, social sciences, and science. Ethics studies, just as a note, there was 1 semester, and that did seem to meet the enrollment need there. And we also had the academies. Summer grad remediation was a small course, but as you'll see later, it did help 5 students that would not have been able to graduate class of 2026 without it, and others to work on items as well. And then we did run PE this year. Yes, it was a fun one. And our essentials courses, as well as the daily life skills and ATP, were part of our special ed department. Switching to what Julie Vo wanted to share regarding, so we're switching modes. So Adult Ed, Charles Smith and Julie Vo handled our online summer school based on the recommendations of counselors if it was a non-health class, and we'll break it down by subject in just a minute. So in session 1, there were 251 students registered for online summer school, and then in their online session 2, they were slightly different days than in-seat. They were different sessions. But session 2, I believe, was a 3-week session, and there were 121 that stuck it out for that session. And the breakdown by subjects, as we've seen in past years, trend continues. Health having 248 with active enrollment. And then far smaller numbers as we head down. 86% completion. So something we did see in-seat summer school, or here rather, it was something to the effect of the last minute request for an online class, because I've realized 8:30 is quite early to get up in person, and saying, I'll just take it online. I'll just take it online. And speaking to Julie Vo, as well as Charles Smith over the summer, we absolutely want students learning in person whenever and however possible, and being that continuing education in summer can be in person or online. Some students, while they might have planned to go in person and then plan B became online, they still, despite that wasn't part of the original plan, maybe some didn't actually sign up that said, we're not sure. Of those that registered, 86% did actually complete. So that's a success. And there's just a few of our graduates we celebrate in the summer, as well as through the year, obviously, with our ceremonies, because each graduate is so special. And if I could tell you their stories, oh my goodness, you would see how spectacular it was that they completed graduation this summer with us. And some of the people we want to thank, you'll see them right here, and we spoke about a few, but it is truly a collaborative effort to bring energy and hope and positivity to our students in the summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Please raise your hand if you have any questions or comments. Esme?
I just had one clarifying question. Maybe you said this and I missed it on slide where you're kind of comparing year over year. I was curious, what's the context in the dip specifically for this year between, just like session 1 compared to 2024 to 2026 for either session, because both sessions seem to be down.
Sure. So looking back for as far back as 2024, you also see a rise in online signups. I don't think it's proportional. I think there are students that take the action of dropping or saying, I'm not going to do in-person seat or in-seat summer school. You see that action completed and not always the action completed of registering for the intended online. That's a portion of it. When you look to, for example, the 2024 session one opening versus end, and each of the opening numbers, those are who's enrolled, who's present, and then who continues to show. That's more accurate where we were there. For the dip each year of 150 to 200 students, there's a trend there, but I think part of it is speaking with our counselors, because the communications have been very similar, I believe, from our point. We've been registering students earlier and even making it summer schools open in January so that it nicely coincided with counselors' individual meetings about grad progress. And I think if we strengthen and continue to do that, that was something that was even earlier this year. I think that really worked well for counselors to have more meaningful sessions with their students as they're talking about grad progress, not only what classes you want next year, but what do we need over the summer to get there? But I think that I could suppose things. And maybe you with your online.
I guess I'm a little bit more curious if the demand has been different year over year.
Two we did this year was usually second session, counselors send out a notice like you're signing up for summer school when kids have like a C as like a, hey, be careful. And this is the first year we actually also did it during first session or first semester. So counselor sent it out as, hey, you have a C, most likely you're gonna be signed up for summer school. So it kind of gives the kids like a little kick in the butt to like bring their grade up so they don't have to have summer school.
So for part of your question, when I look at the students that earn D's or F's in the fall, that's how we pre-enroll students into the summer school data. That number seems stable. The ways in which they can perhaps make up that course, I think that home sites have expanded offerings for credit recovery during the year. And I think also there's many reasons why online might look enticing. I think we just really that's something that was so good to speak about in our admin retreat as well, that there's ranges of how technology helps learning and what is best for learning. So I think that's part of conversation. I know that Julie and I have already spoken about having conversations this fall about when and how does a totally online class fit the need for learning? When does it need to be in seat in summer? We have each year as well over pre-enrolled higher and higher numbers, assuming the attrition. So I think there's a trend for I want to get out of here over the summer and I can do it perhaps more easily online.
I thought you were just going to tell me there's less students getting to use the tips. But it makes sense if there's more ways to make up and it may not always be summer school.
All right, Vadim.
Yes, so thank you for the presentation. I had the same question, but I wanted to follow up because I don't feel confident in the answer. Maybe we can have data for online throughout the years to see if the number of students taking online courses is that net different between the students who are not taking in seat. And that will just tell us that there is a change in preference. If we also can show the data that students are recovering from lower performance throughout the year, that indicates actually success. So this drop isn't necessarily a bad thing. It could be a good thing. I am just not feeling confident in the explanation. I would appreciate a little more insight in what we believe is causing this about 1/3 of the reduction in the number of students taking summer school.
Thank you. And I can also communicate that with Julie Vo. Thank you.
Okay. I just wanted to say on behalf of the board Thank you, Suzanne, both Jennifers, and all our teachers and staff's commitment to summer school to help our students succeed. And yeah. And next we have 9.2 MVLA Summer Facilities Projects Updated, presented by Associate Superintendent Mike Matheson.
Well, thank you and good evening and welcome back. Yeah. It's been a great day so far and we're concluding it well. As we do annually, we try and give an update on all that we've been doing over the summer in the world of facilities. So my presentation is all pictures. The words will only come from me and I'll try and be brief. But we want to run through what we have accomplished and are still in process accomplishing. Some maybe by the first day of school, some by the first home football game, some somewhere in between. So with that, let's jump in. You got a little preview from Kip at Mountain View. Thank you for setting that up for us. Start with Mountain View High School. The track resurfacing and field replacement. We're doing this at both high schools. You'll see pictures at both. Given the deadline to get these presentations in here for board submission for the agenda, a lot has happened even in the week since we submitted these photos. In fact, I was out there today. They're working on the tracks. Basically, it looks like a layer of paint. It's red, and then they add the rubber surface. Striping will happen next week. But here you see kind of the process to rip out the existing turf, which at each school was about 12 years old. 2014 was when that version was installed, and we refreshed the tracks then as well. So they got to take off the synthetic turf, all those stacks. It's like styrofoam padding you see. They'll fly away in the wind. So they had to secure them, but that's the shock padding that goes between the base rock and the turf over it. So you see that at Mountain View High School in process. Here's what it looks like completely stripped of the shock pads and synthetic turf field. Rarely do you get to see a field that looks like that. We don't want to play sports on that. That's why we're doing it, to have a nice, fresh new field out there. And here they are in reverse, but installing the nice new synthetic turf field with the sand infill. And as we mentioned, when we approved these contracts, the organic infill, not the crumb rubber infill. We spent about $90,000 to $100,000 at each school site with the cork infill, which also has a tan brownish color that looks a little bit more like dirt. And it's also cooler for those that are on the field, especially on very hot days like today. Although nobody was on it playing, it will help with reducing that heat effect. And so this was a long process. You see the end. Here's a lot of it put in with the striping. It's hard to get a good angle unless you're up on the press box. So I do encourage you with all these projects, when we're out there for the district kickoff or flag football game or tackle football game or back to school night, to check them out. But here you see Mountain View, new font in the end zones to match their branding and logo work. Here's more of the center logo. It's hard to get a vantage point. I need a drone or somebody to fly it for me. But the Spartan Head logo in the center of the field, some additional striping to designate the players' boxes for football. Just small things that you might miss if you didn't see what it was like before. You can see the white numbering's football. The dark numbering is flag football, yellow for soccer. There's unified lacrosse striping on this field. So that's, I think, 4 sports, if I'm doing my math correctly, that this field serves, 1 less than Los Altos. And again, here's a vantage point, just looking kind of the end zone, center field, midfield. They were in process of putting the sand on and cork infill here. They hadn't started the track yet. So if you look at the track today, you don't see any lines because they've done the polyurethane overlay on the track actually at both high schools at this point. And again, trying to capture end to end what it looks like. Small detail, but they freshened up, new coat of paint on the field goal posts to really make it kind of pop. While you're out there, you might as well do it then because they don't get painted otherwise. So there's the Mountain View field. As was mentioned, we are moving forward in our Measure E bond program. I should pause. The field projects are not bond projects. Okay. Those are funded out of district maintenance funds. We set aside about $1 million a year over 3 years to fund those projects at both sites, not bond projects. Interim housing is, as we wind down the bond program, you heard Kip talk about classrooms available for teachers, and I'll get to that. But these portable classrooms were set in place back in 2019. So everyone just think about where you were in 2019. You don't answer it. Many of, I won't say us, many of the group were not here in 2019 or were early on in this. It was also before that thing called COVID, where we all experienced, virtual learning or distance learning. That's how long they'd been there, just to paint that picture. 7 years. Los Altos had the fortune of removing theirs about a year and a half ago. Now that we've finished the classroom project, which we'll get to next, these finally can be removed at Mountain View High School. Although I will say, I did get multiple requests for, hey, Mike, can we keep 2 of them? So it used to be all grass out there, and I was like, oh, you're taking away the grass. And then you get used to having facilities out near the football field, the field, I should say, used for games, team rooms at halftime, a room for officials. So know that that's received and taken in, and in a future board meeting, we'll come back with ideas for future projects we could do at both campuses. But I think people did appreciate having buildings, rooms, protection from the weather, air conditioned out there near the fields. So these are on temporary foundations. They split them in half. We had to disconnect all electricity and internet and strip them down, and they're up on these stacks, and then they just haul them away. You can kind of see them ready to go. And if you're driving down the freeway, maybe you've seen trucks like this that, big, long flatbed, and they're going to another place. So literally they separate them in half with the protective coating and haul them away off our property. And here it is, completely gone. So just base rock. If you looked out there today, half of it, there's a pathway here out to the field, which people appreciated for golf carts and path of travel. So we asphalted the right half. We're going to put up some basketball hoops so kids just have a chance to play and somewhere to go at lunch or other times of the school day. Going back to 2019, one of the first projects was the new classroom buildings at Mountain View, the 700, 800 wing, engineering wing. That used to be outdoor basketball courts out there that we lost to add those classrooms. So bringing back just activity for kids to play, space to go during those downtimes outside of class. So look for that to come. And kind of the highlight that we wrapped up was the expansion project of the 300 and 400 wings. A year ago, we were talking about the 100 and 200 wings, and you combined all 4 wings. It was 40 classrooms, 24 of which we expanded. So when I get a chance, I'll show you where we could expand into breezeways. We enlarged classrooms from about 700 square feet to closer to that 960 square foot standard that the Department of Ed prescribes. And it also included a lot of concrete work. So it's not always pretty, but a lot of this concrete work is to bring it up to current accessibility code so that the slope is meeting the current code. So you see it here without concrete, and then you see it here putting the concrete in. And once the fencing's down, just a nice flow of traffic all around campus. You see kind of some before and after with the fencing. You don't see the plants in the picture to the left, but that was areas that were landscaped. This is the classroom wings. Both of these are next to the gym with some concrete benches for kids to sit, especially when you enclose the breezeways, you can't open the door in a breezeway. There's no more breezeway. So actually the doors on the side here, those are the new classroom doors for the new enlarged classroom. So where they open, we created seating out there for students to go outside to work quietly or in a group or wait for class to start or things like that. And then again, here it is with the plants and just adding that native plants, drought tolerant, enhancing the look of the school. New paint, new trim on these. You see the new windows here. This is all the exterior photos. More concrete. I'm going to cruise through these. This is by the weight room and the girls' locker room. Again, before and after pictures. Painting the classrooms, again, to tie in the new colors with the existing colors and really tie together the campus. And then the inside of a room. It looks like a plain classroom, but what you don't appreciate until you walk in there, and I used to teach in one of these undersized classrooms, the new classrooms were expanded much larger, as was the experience in the 100 and 200 wing. These 2 wings had more of this situation where we enclosed the breezeways to make larger classrooms, new lighting, LED lighting, new paint you see, upgraded windows. You can see that from the inside. They do open should people want fresh air. Here they are with desks ready for students to come so they can all learn. Just another room, different desks, more colors, but a view looking back. And so gotten a lot of compliments, walked it with some of the administrators at Mountain View, some teachers had seen it, and we're just very thrilled to be in a classroom that felt new. They're not new, but they felt like new because of all the new finishes and new things in there. Okay. So that's a Mountain View summary at Los Altos. It's a little bit of repeat with the track and field project. Again, this was removal. You've seen it, but just a different campus where they strip it down. Here it is, kind of the after picture. And I want to give both schools credit for being thoughtful about the lines, the colors, the font in the end zone. Especially Los Altos unveiled a new logo late in the spring last year. And really we're excited to incorporate it in the field, and we worked with the designers and we're able to incorporate that new eagle in the field, and you can see it here, center logo. It has all the lines we mentioned at Mountain View plus field hockey. So that's a fifth sport that field is striped for. And kind of, again, trying to get the big picture, full scope of the field. Again, painted the field goals. The track has not yet been worked on in this photo. But excited for the fall sports teams to start using it. August 14th is the current project end date for both of these projects at Mountain View, Los Altos. So school starts August 10th. August 14th is after that. We have been working with the athletic directors and before this project of make alternate arrangements for practices, but we will be done before the first home football games, which are not till like the very last weekend in August or 1st of September. And then we have a small project going at Los Altos about the pool scoreboard. But we brought this to the board back earlier in the calendar year to approve design services for this. We had an opportunity with a donor to put in a new scoreboard there. But as you guys have learned, anything on a public school campus that the Division of State Architect governs is never that easy. So scoreboard's great, except it's taking 16 weeks to get here. So we put the order in April and 16 weeks. We got the project approved by DSA around end of April. I didn't bring it in my notes. Contractors on site doing the work, basically drilling holes. But when you dig down new holes, you discover conduit and piping that you didn't know was there because it wasn't on any plans that were there. So it's a big hole, but you get a size of, this is the existing one of the 2 posts for the pool. That's the current size. You can kind of get scale of the size. It's just going to be actually, 2 large posts. So anything that TSA requires us to do is massive, and the footings go down deep, and it's not going anywhere in a wind event or an earthquake or anything like that. So the construction part of this should be done in the next week or 2, and then we'll just be waiting for delivery of the scoreboard, which is a flat panel video board, comes in like 8 sections, but then has to be installed. So we're fingers crossed to get that in so they can enjoy that for the fall water pool season, the bulk of it. We're working with the coach on, they can use the pool, but it's kind of fun to have the scoreboard for the home games. So can you trade with other schools and play some away games and flip when your home games are? And that concludes the facility update for the summer of 2026.
Please raise your hand if you have any questions or comments. All right. I would just like to say thank you on behalf of the entire board for your efforts and your team's efforts, as well as our contractors and construction crews for making this summer's construction projects almost finished by the start of the school year, and very importantly, on budget. And our students, teachers, staff, and community will benefit from these new and improved facilities for many years to come. Thank you. Okay, so next we move on to 10.0 public hearing. This is our annual public hearing on resolution number 2026-2027, textbook and instructional materials compliant. The hearing is open. Are there any public comments on the sufficiency of textbooks as required by Ed Code? All right. Seeing none, the hearing is closed. Okay, so next we move on to 11.0, recognitions and resolutions. And we move on to our amended resolution number 2526-32, order of elections, specifications of the election order and consolidation request. This is similar to the resolution we pass every election year. It is amended because MVLA is moving to trustee areas, with areas 1, 2, and 3 up for election in 2026 and areas 4 and 5 in 2028. Please raise your hand if you have any questions or comments before we consider a motion. Okay, seeing none. Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry, Vadim. Vadim.
Yeah. Just a comment. At the title where it says a resolution of the governing board, blah, 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 it says special or general election. Should we clarify that this is a general election, not a special election? Does it forget basically to remove one, or is this a proper way of handling it?
That actually, you're correct. That should be general. In fact, that was one of the major corrections that we did over the summer. It said special or general in the body of the resolution. We just didn't address the one that's in the title. So it should be general election.
Thank you for catching that, Vadim. It sounds like we need to amend the motion then to make it correct, or do we just include it in the okay. All right. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay. So our understanding is that we would that would be amended to take out special. Okay.
So I
can have
move
a
that
motion?
we accept the amended resolution with the removal of the one incorrect word.
Okay. Which is special order.
Mhm.
Okay, just to clarify. Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so moved by Catherine, seconded by Esme. Please raise your hand if you have any questions or comments before you vote. Okay. All right. Miley, how do you vote? Okay. Kapil, how do you vote? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Vadim, okay, great. That's 4-0. All right. Next, we move on to 12.0, which is the consolidated agenda. Please raise your hand if you have any questions or comments in order to move forward with this agenda item. Okay, Vadim.
Right. So I'd like to pull 12.15, and I have the same question about 12.9 through 12.9, 12.10, 12.11, 12.12, and 12. Oh, that's it. I don't mind. I'm not sure how to proceed. I can ask the question and maybe get an answer without pulling those, or this is the same question. 12.15, I'm pretty confident I'd like to pull. So are you guys okay with asking questions, and then we can decide?
I'm
whether-
fine with you asking questions. So do you want to ask questions about the ones you don't want to pull?
Yes. So my question is the 12.9 through 12.12, the amount of money that we are spending per student is very large. It's over 100,000, and we have an agreement that we will not put anything on the consolidated agenda if it's above 100,000. And I don't know whether it's a new spending that we haven't experienced before. I'll give an example of, I guess, the biggest one, 12.10. Agreement between Mountain View, Los Altos High School, and Lake Mary Center. $492,600 for a single student. All of these are various types of special accommodations that are necessary. I haven't seen that amount for even special accommodations that we have discussed anywhere, even in a closed session for 1 year. Right? So I'm not sure if You want to answer this question, or should we discuss it outside of consolidated agenda?
All right, so Special Ed Director Jennifer Smith is going to answer your questions.
Good evening. So these are agreements for students who are currently in placement in non-public schools, and we're continuing their placement as they're the best opportunity and services available for the student. We have brought 3 students back to the district who are ready for a step-down program, and we have 2 incoming students who will be placed at a non-public school to continue their education from what was previously decided by IEP teams at the elementary districts. So these are IEP team decisions based on what's best for the students. And this is the financial piece that goes along with that decision made by the IEP team to serve the student in the least restrictive environment.
Then if I may follow up, Jennifer, and thank you. Is there a change in the total amount that we are spending for the students that the board should be aware of from the last year? Because I don't have last year data. So this, the total of the students among the 4 items is a little over $1 million for 6 students. Is this similar to what we spent last year, or is there a significant change?
It is, and our SELPA negotiates through a master contract with each agency to make sure they're not charging different school districts different amounts. It's consistent to everyone in the Santa Clara County SELPA.
Do we get, is it something that we fund as a district, or is it something that is, we get assistance from the state or federal government?
We do use funds from federal funding and state funding in regards to being able to claim that we have students either out of home or out of school placement if it's an extraordinary cost. But typically, they look to districts to run programs if they can, if they're a large district, or to partner with other districts. So you'll see that 2 of the contracts are actually for partner districts to serve our students that we're unable to serve.
Okay, thank you. I'm okay keeping those 4 on the consolidated agenda, and I would like to pull 12 back to 2.
Sorry, could you repeat that? I couldn't hear that very clearly.
Yes, I am okay keeping 12.9 through 12.12 on consolidated agenda. And I would like to pull 12.15 for action item discussion.
Sorry, you want to pull 12:16 because the transcript is road trip or 15.
12.15.
Okay.
1-5.
All right. Thank you. All right. Does anyone else wish to pull any items? Okay. I would actually like to pull 12:16. So do I have a motion, or is there any other discussion before we have a motion? Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion?
I move that we approve a consolidated agenda 12.1 through 12.14, and then skipping to 12.17 through 12.22.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Catherine, seconded by Esme. Okay, Kapil, how do you vote?
I approve.
Okay, Miley, how do you vote? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's 4-0. Okay, so now we move on to the pulled items. So the first item is 12:15.
Yeah.
Okay, Vadim?
Yeah, I would like to learn what prevents special education department from offering these services, and why do we need to contract with external provider at the cost of $195,000, $195,300.
So this is a contract for LMFT who's doing a job duty serving our students with disabilities in a very unique situation, both in our therapeutic intervention program as they're coming back from step down programs and leaving to more restrictive programs. He was previously contracted by the district through an agency, Nugent, and has since become an independent contractor as that company has kind of dispersed. And he is familiar with our students. He also serves students through that are homebound, making sure that they're receiving WRAP services. So we have students who he goes into the home and he does family therapy, he does parent coaching, and he does student individual therapy. Very unique situations and needs of these students. While we try to keep them in their home, our preference would be that they attend our school or a non-public school here locally instead of being sent out of state to a residential school. And because his hours are able to accommodate the families and their work hours and school hours, it's a little bit different than having an internal therapist with the union and their hours that would be set to from 8 to 3.
Okay, I understood. So this offers us a flexibility, which offers in turn more flexible support for the families and the children that require the services that we would have been provided through full-time employees.
Yeah, so just as you mentioned the previous contracts where they're going to schools outside of our district, we're trying to prevent that by having this individual help work with the student in their home and get them to school, especially when they have school refusal.
Understood. Thank you, Jennifer.
Mhm.
Okay, so are we prepared to vote on this item? Does anyone have any other questions or comments? Okay, do I have a motion?
I move that we approve 12.15.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Catherine, seconded by Vadim. Okay, let's see. Kylie, how do you vote? Miley, sorry. Miley, how do you vote? Kapil, how do you vote?
I approve.
Okay, all in favor?
I
Okay, that's 4-0. All right, so next we move on to 12.16. I had a question about this. If we were switching to a different provider, or this is the same provider that we had before?
Yeah, so same provider, just change in name. So it was Employee Benefit Services, EBS is how we refer to them. Subcontracted that out to Alta Montclair. So it's really just an update of the name of that entity that's providing those services. So not a
Okay.
different provider, same individuals, just updated name as companies get acquired and redistribute kind of internally the name of the subgroup that handles those services.
Okay, and then I had a question, which is, do you know approximately how many employees use this?
I do not. That's something I can talk to payroll technicians and probably easily get for you. It's a voluntary program. It's for 403Bs and 457 retirement plans. The advantage for employees is it's handled through their payroll and paycheck that's processed by the County Office of Ed. It's completely voluntary, nor is it exclusive. So employees could invest money into a 403B or 457 completely on their own. Many of our employees do that. I wouldn't have a number on that because I don't know what they're doing after they get their paycheck. It just requires them to take the step of those regular contributions to a retirement plan.
Okay, so I guess my main concern is I looked up, there's sort of a rating site. I don't know how valuable it is, and you would know more, but it gave our district a C on our investment, what's available for our employees to invest in. And I think for our district, it should be an A. So I think it's worth investigating. I mean, I could be wrong. So But I think, and I'm willing to pass it tonight, but I would like to have a little bit more information on how we can get to an A rating, because my understanding is other districts have all of the options be A, like, for example, Fidelity was one of them. That's an A rated investment, but some of them were not as, didn't have like a green check mark on them, right? So I think it's just worth investigating if we can make sure our employees are investing their money in A-rated facility, in A-rated institutions, because it can matter. It doesn't matter now, but we don't know what's going to happen with our economy, so it's important for our employees to know that their money is being invested safely. So that was my main concern.
Can you forward that URL to us so that we can take a look at, compare and see what the
Yeah, so I
differences
think
are?
because I think it's something that's a little technical, and so I'm not going to not vote on it tonight, but I did want to bring that to your attention, that it is something where I think a lot of districts just go with the contract and they don't necessarily look at how the institutions are rated. So I think we deserve better than a C. Now, it could be that this website is not a good website, and I'm happy to have you tell me it's not a good website, but I think however we slice and dice it, we should be getting an A in our investment institutions for our employees. They deserve nothing less. We pay them the best, so they should have the best investment as well. So I'm willing to vote on it tonight because I think you need to go, and I can show you the website and then you can come back with some more information.
Then my question is, these are advisors, but they would advise you to different things. And so it's really not, is the advice bad of the investments that they're being put into, or do they have a broad selection of things to invest in? I mean, so I don't understand where the advice part comes in and the choices of what they're allowed to invest in. So maybe that would be important detail to know.
You're looking to see why
Yeah.
getting it ready.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay. So I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve 12.16.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Moved by Catherine, seconded by Esme. Okay. Let's see. Kapil, how do you vote?
I approve.
Okay. Miley, how do you vote? Okay. All in favor? Okay. That's 4-0. All right. So then we move on to our 14.0, which is our business action items. And 14.1. And we move on to we have a lot of regulations, so I will give you the floor, Superintendent Volta.
All of these regulations are stuck in limbo. These are all policies and regulations that were approved at one time or had a title change, but no change in the actual body. And in our gamut software, they're messing Amy up. And so they've already been approved. We're not asking for any changes. So we're asking to approve these so that we can clear them as approved. For some reason, when we changed over from the old system to the new system, these stayed in the pending file. And we did not feel comfortable stating that they were approved by the board without an actual vote. So recommendation is to approve, to clean up the language and to clean up our gamut.
Okay. Please raise your hand if you have any questions or comments in response to what Superintendent Volta said. Okay. All right. Seeing none. I'll ask, actually, I have a question for you, is can we approve them in one motion or do we need to vote on them all separately?
You could, because it's listed together, you can say, I motion to approve 14.1 and you don't have to list everything.
Okay, so I guess what I'll ask the board is, have you had a chance to look at all the, so I guess what we can do is we can use like a consent count, it's not consent, but are there any policies you wish to pull? And I can also go through each policy. Also, I did read them all and I outlined the changes. So I can go either way. What are you comfortable with?
I would just like to make a motion to approve 14.1 in its entirety.
Okay, do I have a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay, so I have, it's moved by Catherine, seconded by Esme. Okay, let's see. Miley, how do you vote? Okay, Kapil, how do you vote?
I approve.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, okay, all right, that's 4-0. All right, so next, we're gonna move on to our, sorry, I had a lot of paper because I was wondering if we would have to go through this one by one. Okay. All right. Next, we move on to 14.2, which is the third reading of bylaw 9/30/2022, agenda meeting materials. Superintendent Volta, you have the floor.
Again, it's a third reading. You have revision B, which is all of the revisions suggested by board member Levitch, predominantly on how the biggest changes, the biggest difference between that and revision A are around how items can be put on the agenda. At the end of the last meeting, board member Levitch also requested a board revision that just address changes in code, whether that be government code or education code, and that's revision A. Recommendation is to approve A, and if which does not change our current practices. And if we need to make adjustments, we could always go to some of the revisions in B. But this is just those changes in the policy that refer to either an education code or a government code.
All right, do I have any questions or comments before we consider a motion?
I'm
Catherine.
confused now because I thought we'd already agreed to make certain changes.
There is one change in revision A that we agreed to from.
And I can't
beginning.
tell from the printouts we just got here in front of me, which one's A and which one's B.
It's at the bottom.
Oh, I see now. But so you wanted to go with B.
No, A, which
You wanted
is
to go
just
with A,
law.
okay.
There is one change in A that we discussed that the board had consensus, and that was that the vice president may attend the agenda setting meeting
Mhm.
if they so wanted.
Mhm.
And that is on both policies. So I kept that revision in both version A and version
Okay,
B.
now I get it. All right.
I had a question also about the first policy, because I looked up education code 35-145.5, which refers to members of the public being able to place items on the agenda. And Alex had requested that board members also be allowed to place board items on the agenda. So I had a question, is a board member acting as a member of the public, which I actually don't understand what that means, part of Ed Code 35-145.5?
A board member can choose to use the formal public process if they choose.
Okay.
However, a board member, just as a board member, could ask for something to be put on the agenda. And our current practice is to get consensus around the table at the end of the meeting to say, is this appropriate? Or is it appropriate for a written summary? That would not change. So the difference is if a board member asked for an agenda item and there was no consensus, they could then go ahead and request as a member of the public, and then we would have to go through the formal process, not approving the agenda item.
Okay, not as part of Ed Code. I just want to understand.
That is Ed Code, yeah.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. All right, so is there any other questions or comments before we consider a motion?
Is Vadim waving?
Oh, sorry, Vadim, I'm sorry I missed
Say
you.
the yellow.
Yeah, sorry, you got blocked off.
No worries.
Sorry about that.
No worries. So to confirm, are we considering either A or B? Like if we vote to accept A, that means B becomes irrelevant?
I think you asked, do we approve both or either? And it's either A or B.
Understand. Okay, then I do have comments. For let me see. For actually, for A, I have some minor comments. Let me go to that first. 4.4, if you look at the public comment, it's just a typo. There are 2 4s, need to be one, needs to be removed. It says any other applicable provisions of government code. You see that?
It's a typo, you mean, with the
Yeah.
number 4 twice?
Number 4 twice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Second comment, under agenda preparation, it says the vice president may participate they desires. So English language, it should say participate if they desire or some other variation. Just not properly worded.
Didn't follow that.
Yeah, sorry, Vadim, we're having a little trouble hearing you.
Oh, sorry. For agenda preparation section, it says the vice president may participate they desires. We just need to fix the language.
If they desire.
If they desire, right?
Typo, I mean, a grammar.
Yeah,
Right.
Okay.
okay.
Now the actual essence. The section again, agenda preparation, 4th paragraph. It says if the board president and superintendent deny a request from a board member to place an item on the agenda, the board member may request the board to take action to determine whether the item shall be placed on the agenda. I would like to make a change that is reflected in revision B, because I thought we actually agreed on that. So I like the revision B part of this. The change I would like to make is to add a wording that says, if the board president and superintendent deny a request from a board member to place an item on the agenda or fail to respond before the next meeting, so it puts a time-based constraint. The board member may request the board to take action to determine whether the item shall be placed on the agenda. And continue. If 2 or more members of the board support placing an item on the agenda, the item shall be placed on the agenda for the following meeting. I think the part that we have discussed, and my understanding was either agreed on, or I'm happy to revisit it, is that it should not take a majority of the board to place an item on the agenda. I think it's an important part of democratic process to allow a minority of board members to force an item on the agenda, and then of course majority decides whether to approve whatever that action item is. But we should allow 2 members of the board to place an item on the agenda if it is disagreeable to people who are setting the agenda, which is typically superintendent and the president.
As a potential suggestion, what if at the end of that line you put, and this is our current policy, so so the way we can operate the way we've been operating, even with this language. But what if we said that it just says to take action? So we could say the board member may request the board to take action to determine whether or not the item shall be placed on the agenda. Action need only 2 other board members to approve the agenda item. So we could
It's
define
not the
action.
same. That's not the same.
Well, it says take action. Action, we could define what action is, that it's 2 other board members to place an item on the agenda.
How is it not the same, Catherine? I heard the same thing, but maybe you heard something different.
I just don't think that means the same thing. If the deny a request from a board member may request the board take action. Well, the whole board would be taking action. I mean, that's the same thing. But it can't take action until there's a meeting. So, I mean, if you want to ask.
See, then it would have to the action would be taken at the following board meeting.
Yeah, see, that's the thing, and that's the part that I know Alex before, and I thought you too, Vadim, were concerned about, is that we keep delaying things. Oh, well, now it's been denied. Now we will discuss it the next board meeting, but then we can't actually discuss it till the next board meeting because it wasn't on the agenda. So where is the way that 2 board members can simply say, I want it on the agenda next time? That's it. And that we were trying to accommodate that before. And a lot of things don't have to be done right away, but some things are more timely and need to be dealt with sooner than later. And you should be able to get it on the very next agenda. And this almost really applies to between meetings, because like you said, our other process is where we talk about it in the meeting anyway, under items for future agenda. And we've already decided whether we're going to put it on or not as a consensus, but we can't do that if something comes up in between. Unless if the superintendent and the board president decide they don't want it on there. So seems like it could just be changed to 2 board members can request an item be put on the agenda. Or the board president and the superintendent shall, something like that. Or 1 board member and then the superintendent and the president, or 2 board members. We could add that.
I think the statement you said, 2 board members may place an agenda item on the agenda.
Yeah, that could work. Would that work, Vadim? To satisfy the situation? Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually expedite things, but let me clarify the mechanics of it. Does this mean that because 2 board members can discuss things without violating Brown Act?
Right.
Does it mean that, let's say, I am very passionate between the board meetings that in the next board meeting, I would like to have something on the agenda. I email Theda and Eric, and on Thursday, I do not see that item on the agenda, for whatever reason. I reach out to Catherine. Catherine agrees with me. We both email Theda and Eric and say, hey, we 2 board members are requesting you to put this item on the agenda, which obligates you to change the agenda for the upcoming meeting. Is this how the procedure would go?
I don't suggest that. I suggest that all discussions about agenda items amongst the board happen in open session. Also in between board meetings, it may be difficult to facilitate a request by a board member to put something on the agenda because of the timelines needed to post the agenda within the Brown Act parameters. So I really am uncomfortable committing to being able to approve something in between board meetings without knowing what the timelines are. And then we would have to get into the timelines into this policy. And I don't think that's what this is about. And I think it's better for, like you said, for discussions for the board to have discussions about agenda items in front of the public.
I agree with that. So let me then replay a different scenario. If I request something on the agenda item which fails your approval, yours over the president, at the meeting during which we fail to accept that agenda item, under what procedure would I, as a board member, request fellow board members to vote on placing an item on the agenda? We are not voting on the agenda itself, but I'm looking for an opportunity to justify my desire to place an item on the agenda, have discussion among the board members, and if at least 2 board members vote on placing this item, that obligates the president and the superintendent to place an item on the following board meeting. Under what circumstances, like within what parameters of the board discussion would we take the actual vote?
Under our current practice, if you were to suggest a study session on changing the track color from red to pink, okay, you would do that at the end of our board meeting, just under the normal time, and
future discussions, right?
Future discussions. President Corns or another president would say, "Is there another board member that wants to discuss this?" And if there's at least one other, yes, I would like to discuss this, then following our regulations, then we would put it on the agenda. If for some reason we found out that the CIF or CCS does not allow pink tracks, then we would have to come back and say we can't discuss it because we can't do it. It's against CIF guidelines. And so we would have to come back with we would have to state why we shouldn't do it after the fact if we were to learn after the board meeting that we cannot discuss pink tracks.
But that's a little different than our current policy because our current policy says, board things for future meetings. But then the president takes consensus that a majority wants to discuss it. But this means 2 people could say they want.
That's correct. This would change it so that instead of the consensus of the board saying, "Yeah, let's discuss," it would need only one other person to say, "Yeah, this is going to be."
So how do we write that in here?
As we mentioned, we would say if the board president or superintendent deny a request from a board member to place an item on the agenda, the board member, I would just say that at the request of one board member and agreement with another board member, items will be placed on the agenda. If the item cannot be placed on the agenda or some other reason, I'm trying to come up with a word that like you said, 2 board members can place something on the agenda at the end of each.
Well, then how about action determined just after that sentence says two board members can force an item to be put on the agenda. Simple as that.
Perfect.
Okay. And we can make this determination by vote during the future meeting discussion. Is that correct?
Yeah, if 2 of us agree that it should be there, it's going to be on there because two people can force it to be on the next.
I was under the impression that we only vote on action items, that we the future discussions isn't something that we vote on. Is that wrong?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
I was under impression that under the future discussion section that we actually cannot take a vote. Is there
No, but
something
we
that I
can force it to be on the agenda for next time for a vote.
No, we cannot vote, or that two members would like the item to be on the agenda. Like, how do we actionize the decision that there are two members among five that would like to have an action on the agenda? Is this something that can happen during the future meeting agenda item?
Currently, we do not take votes about future items on the agenda. A board member suggests it, and we have a consensus as to whether or not we'd like to see that item go forward. It would be the same thing, only instead of a consensus, all we would need is another board member to agree that that item should be put on the agenda. We would not need to vote to put something on the agenda. We could do it the same way we've been doing it.
So just another member verbalizing that they support this request would be good enough.
Right. So that would, why I said the word force, but
That would be, yeah.
two board members can require it to be put on the agenda.
After going to the administrative retreat, I might consult AI to come up with a language that
Anyway, could we add that sentence of some kind?
that a second board member is needed to place an item on the agenda.
I don't like it that way either, because I don't know why you can't just say two board members can force or require it.
Well, we can't use force, but because we're going to have to research that topic first to see whether or not.
No, that's not true. You can still put it on the agenda for next time, and you can say it's a moot point because we couldn't legally do that. And then we'll say, oh, well, then I guess we're not going to take an action on it. I mean, it's not the end of the world to have something on the agenda that you can't actually do anything about.
I am plus one with Catherine. I mean, sometimes, we may say, that's fine. Or because we already have an agreement among two board members and the rest of the board to place something on the agenda, and it is placed, and it's a quick discussion because you consult us on the fact that it is something that is illegal, right? Like you given your example, and then, okay, it is what it is. Hopefully it will happen rare, but we don't have to do a research and in advance whether this item is something that withstand the law.
Okay.
I haven't spoken. For me, our existing agenda processes have worked well for years. I mean, I don't get requests. I don't know where these requests are coming from. And I don't put them on the agenda. I bring forth everything that I hear.
Well, and you've been the president for 6 months, so you don't know what might come up.
But I mean, we've had this process. It's worked well for years, and changing a process can have unintended consequences. So therefore, I'm in favor of the first policy with the ed code only changes. I mean, to me, the question I have is what is not working about our current process, which has been working for this board for the past time I've been on board and the time you've been on the board, Catherine. So
well, that I don't know if that's true. I would have to think back over the last 8 years and see if there was any case where there was contention on whether something should be on the agenda or not. I don't recall right this minute. But there has been many 3-2 votes on this board. So I can see this particular board. I can see that something could come up that people really feel strongly about that want to discuss. And I just want to see that it ends up on the agenda. And there's no harm in adding one sentence to say that.
I think there is. So we're talking about a process here, and we're talking about staff time, and we're talking about board time. And so I have those concerns because, I serve as board president, and I know how much time staff puts into a topic. So let's say to use a silly example, someone wants to make the track pink, we could spend more time on that, but that's not actually, and that is relevant to students, but that's not actually something that is gonna result in an outcome for students. And I think we have, at least thus far, I haven't seen an issue where people aren't willing to discuss something, whether it's been 3-2, 4-1, whatever the vote is. I think the board has been open to discussing things. So I don't understand what problem this is trying to solve.
I don't know that I feel too strongly one way or the other, but I do see Theta's point. I think the one caution around changing this is that there's already a long list of things that we request. And so this might just make that list even longer if it doesn't require the majority of the board to have some level of consensus. I get the point around, if only 2 board members and whatnot. But I do think what Theta's calling out around board time, since these meetings already run pretty long, as well as I don't think so much to Eric's example, it's research he necessarily is going to do, but how he's tasking his team and their time and what they need to prepare for the board. So back to Theta's point about staff time, we shouldn't belittle that because they, if they're working on things for the board, they're not working on other things. So that's the caution I would throw out there, which echoes a lot of Theta's sentiments.
Okay, can I go next?
Okay, Vadim?
I appreciate your concern, Peter. It's valid. I want to validate it. It is possible. But I do want to emphasize that we are making changes to the current policy. So we are not keeping existing policy as is and then trying to change it. We're making changes to the current policy with other rewarding that goes beyond ed code. And those changes strengthen the role of the president and the superintendent in their control over the agenda. That was a motivation for empowering the minority of the board members to influence the agenda item. Have we not made any policy changes? I would say that we would not make it I wouldn't make that recommendation unless I felt that we, I personally cannot get something on the agenda item. The second point I'd like to make is that we've had this discussion, and I believe we already agreed on this, and that's why it's a part of the policy wording B that we are not considering, but it's already there. So if we are backing off from that agreement, that we would allow 2 board members to enforce an item on the agenda, that's walking back from the agreement we made in the, when we had that discussion. Because the wording is already in an update B instead of A. So what I'm asking is to put that wording back into A.
So I'm curious as to why you're saying that it gives the board and the board president and the superintendent more power. Because when I look at A, which is ed code, it's simply outlining the responsibilities of the board president and the superintendent, which is to set the agenda. Now, is the agenda done in a vacuum? Absolutely not. I mean, that's why we have the suggestions for future board meetings and reports. So to me, while the board president and the superintendent meet to do agenda setting, that is informed by all of your input during that time. So I don't really understand how an EDCO change, which is what we're talking about, in version A leads you to the impression that the board president and the superintendent therefore are given more power.
It is possible that that was removed from the version A, because I see that the version A has fewer changes than version B. I'm looking for.
Question for Catherine, just a clarifying question, since this is your 7th year. Have you seen going almost 8? Have you seen a president and a superintendent deny an item on the agenda in that time?
I don't know because not one that I wanted, but I don't know about somebody else's.
Well, but suggested during a meeting. Have you ever?
Well, we didn't do it quite like that before either. So, and it doesn't say point blank in here that we will always have that item on the agenda. We have decided that this year. If we want to add that in as a requirement, then that would satisfy me too.
If we always had an agenda item.
Yeah, I know, but it's not actually in the policy if we just go by ed code. That there will always be suggestions for future meetings. I don't think that's in this policy. So, I mean, the combination of having the vice president be a part of the meeting for agenda setting, that gives a second person involved in deciding, right? But technically speaking, even the vice president, if the president and the superintendent don't want to do it, doesn't have to take the vice president's advice. And then meanwhile, because of the way the policy is written, our board is always operated as all 5. And the way this is written, it's not all 5. It's the 2 people make the decision. And so that's the thing. You say it's always worked fine before. Well, that's because we haven't necessarily paid attention very specifically to these paragraphs because this policy hasn't been updated in a long time. So if it's going to be so specific, and maybe as the president wouldn't be denying requests, but there are people with their own political agendas that would, as a president, implement the process more point blank this way and not put in an item on the agenda that somebody would like. That's the reason we would need to clarify it so that doesn't happen.
So I hear your concern that other board presidents might do things differently.
Well, yes, it's been very different depending on who's the president.
Okay.
And we're about to have 2 completely new board members starting in December, at least 2. And so it'll be a whole new ballgame. And how will the president coming in then? You're going, well, that will be Vadim, and we maybe realize how he might operate, but we don't know.
So the current system, which you're saying is not written down in this policy, is any board member can suggest something in the future. Sorry, I need to get the.
No, it's not the current system. It's just doesn't come up much. And it doesn't come up in conversation much because we're usually in agreement. But if people are not in agreement, the way this point blank states limits the ability of another board member, if the president does not want to do something, to that person and the superintendent can keep it from happening. And that is what we want to.
Yeah, so I hear your concern.
So that's the point.
I hear your concern that you don't want the president and the superintendent to limit what happens.
Access by the rest of the
Right,
board.
and I agree with you. So the current process that we have is during the item which is called let me just so
I know
can I Could I-
Invited now, yes, we
Yeah,
added that.
so if I
But-
could just
but-
finish what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So the current system we have now is that during board suggestions for future board reports and meetings, anyone can bring up any item. And if a majority of the board agrees with that, so if it doesn't matter what the board president says, a majority of the board agrees, then
Mhm.
that goes on the agenda. So I
Right.
hope that addresses your concern about the board president.
it
Just
does,
deciding.
except for that's not in the policy.
So.
That is our current operating procedure,
Okay.
which is neither in a regulation or in the policy. So if
Okay.
we add that to the policy, that would be good.
Okay.
That's a simple addition that we could say under that. Board members will have an opportunity to make suggestions on future agenda items during the board operations portion of the meeting.
Okay, and so then that's one less problem or one less situation, but the last one that Vaneem had is still the minority opinion. In some cases would want to be heard. And if the majority doesn't agree, then it still wouldn't be put on an agenda.
That's perfectly fine. I think why CSBA did not suggest that is because CSBA is very focused on the business of the board, alluding to what, as Dr. Ortiz was saying.
Mhm.
If our priority is to focus on the business of the board, and if a majority of the board does not want to discuss something, then we're spending time not on the business. So I think
Yeah.
that's the other side of the two.
Mhm.
I'm good either way, whether it's just one person, whether it's two people, whether it's all five or four or three, it doesn't matter. But that's probably the perspective of CSBA.
I would agree. And our board may not have had these kind of problems, but I'm aware of these kind of situations happening in other districts at other boards. And I don't want our policy to be such that that kind of thing could happen here too. We've always had pretty congenial boards, but that's not true everywhere. So could we add that part? Just add a sentence that says we will have that agenda item always?
Yes, that's
That would work for me, but I don't know if it works for Vadim.
Thought I saw.
Yeah.
Nadeem, your hand is up.
Yes. It does work for me, and I do want to acknowledge that we have rolled back some of the other changes that were originally proposed. So while the ability of minority of the board members to force a discussion item on the agenda isn't currently written, it has never been written, even though we are saying that in practice we would respect that. It hasn't been written. The current proposal of A, for the most part, just adds education code references, right? I don't see it, well, and the wording that vice president can participate in the agenda setting, which I appreciate as a vice president. So I'm okay either way. But if you do add it, we can always remove it if for whatever reason we decide it doesn't work. The situation that I'm trying to avoid is, let's say, which we haven't had in the past, but if we do not respect the minority of the board members to force an agenda item, then that minority of the board members will never be able to force a policy change that will allow them to bring something to the agenda item. Even that policy change is not going to be placed even for discussion. So it limits their ability to even modify a policy to be able to sort of to have a public discussion on some agenda item. That's what concerns me. So I would be open to trying and have that written as a policy rather than just accept it as a practice.
Dima, I'm not sure I really understand because you're talking about modifying a policy with two people. but you actually need 3 people to do that. So I don't really understand your
Bringing
point.
no. There is a difference between bringing a policy modification for discussion versus accepting the policy modification for discussion. My point is, if at any future time, any superintendent, any president refuse to accept an agenda item from a board member, because the policy currently states that the superintendent and the vice president are in control of the policy, the minority of the board has no formal way of even reconsidering the policy or bringing this up for an open discussion as a way of specifying that their voice, their desire to have a discussion in public isn't being heard. That's different than accepting the actual change. Does that
So,
make sense?
yeah, I guess it does, but to me, the board, if 2 members wanted to say that I don't feel that this item is being discussed, they could discuss that during the future agenda, the future sorry, I need to get that name straight. But anyway, the future agenda reports item, and they could try to talk. Basically, we've had discussions in which 2 board members have brought forth something, and then the board has agreed to discuss it. So I'm just not seeing, again, what the if we put in that we will always have board suggestions for future board reports / meetings, and that, we will discuss whatever board members wish to discuss. And if a majority of the board wishes to bring that forth as an agenda item, I think that addresses both the minority's ability to express their wanting to bring something to the board, and also it respects the board's business and staff's time. So, because otherwise someone could bring something to the board and it's not something that we're going to actually our business as a board is to actually pass and approve things. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to necessarily agree as we talk about things. But I think, at least what I haven't seen in my tenure, is a board president who just says, no, you can't discuss that. And then also, because it's discussed in public, we're discussing it in public with all of the board members, right? That gives also all those board members a chance to say, they could literally say to the board president, hey, I brought this up and you're not allowing me to put it on the agenda. And that would not be a good look for the board president, because the board president is supposed to listen to the board, and as the board's spokesperson, we work together as a board. We need to have a 3-2 vote at least to move forward with anything. We can't pass anything with a 2 vote.
Thea, could I call the question?
Sure.
I would like to call the question, and I would like to move that we amend this agenda preparation sentence to add a further sentence that says, the agenda shall always include the item board suggestions for future board reports / meetings. Can we do that?
Yeah,
So that is my amended. I would like to move that we approve this policy with that sentence added.
Okay. Do I have
board
this?
suggestions for future board meetings will appear under the board operations portion.
I don't care where it appears as long as it's on the agenda.
It's kind of, well, yeah.
Okay, so the question is being called, so I think we're not going to have further
Right.
discussion, but I would entertain a second.
I
Yes.
just move that.
I'll
yeah.
second.
Okay,
Catherine.
so moved by Catherine, seconded by Esme. Are we clear on the language?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Agenda preparation and what is the final sentence?
One,
Yeah,
two,
so the-
no, not the
the-
final, well, it
the-
doesn't matter.
The actual agenda item, so just to make sure that we're very clear on it, is the agenda item at every board meeting, which is under board operations, which is board suggestions for future board reports / meetings. And we'll say that that will appear on every agenda.
All right.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right, so
But in the policy, that'll go.
I don't care as long as it's under agenda preparation somewhere.
Okay.
okay, so so we're gonna vote on that with the, and just to clarify, that would be the first policy. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
On revision A, yes.
yes, okay. So, all right, so I think we're ready to vote. So Kapil, how do you vote?
I approve.
Okay, Miley, how do you vote?
I approve.
Okay. All right, I'll let Esme finish drinking. Okay, all in favor?
I
Aye. Okay, all right, that passes 4-0. Great.
think that is a nice compromise.
Yes, thank you. All right, so now we move on to our first reading of board policy. And this is just a first reading, so it's a discussion. 5138.1, which is mobile communications. And Superintendent Volta, you have the floor.
Okay, actually, this is Associate Superintendent 5, mobile communication devices.
Good evening, trustees. Last year at this time, I brought to you the board policy 5131.8 per CDE guidance and CSBA with an update on mobile communications regarding cell phone use. Today, I bring forward this policy with one revision outlined in red, and that is to make explicit and clear direction that mobile communication in this situation also includes smart glasses and that they would be prohibited on campus during the entire instructional support day or instructional minutes. We added this because we wanted to eliminate any ambiguity that may be around smart glasses versus smartphones. And I'll take any questions. Thank you.
Okay, please raise your hand if you have any questions for Terry. Catherine?
It's not actually a question, it's just a statement. Just like we've had to iterate on policies and we're going to have more things having to do with AI and more things had to have one on mobile phones in the first place and so on. As technology changes and things happen, there's unintended consequences. And speaking of unintended consequences, which we were talking about earlier, is that we didn't think about the possibility for cheating. We didn't think about the possibility for people having pictures of people in compromising positions or something because they used their glasses in the restroom or something like that. I mean, we didn't think of any of these kind of things. And so this makes it clear that we're not having that on our campus.
Exactly. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wants to make a comment? Okay.
Vadim, does he have his hand up?
Vadim? Oh, you have your hand up. Vadim,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes. Terry, on how many instances of students wearing smart glasses have we experienced in the past, and under what circumstances have they used smart glasses? For what purpose?
I know of 2 situations where smart glasses were on campus. Were they used in ways that may have been in violation? That I don't have that information. And I have read other school districts have had some issues with smart glasses on campus. So we want to, instead of waiting for an incident to occur, to be in front of this and make the communication clear as kind to our students so that they're very well aware that these glasses are left in the bag or not brought on campus at all.
I understand. Are there any positive use of smart glasses that you have seen? Like students found a way of using smart glasses in a way that is constructive to learning.
At this point, our information that we have is that the devices that the students have currently are sufficient enough to be able to access the learning. And the risk is not worth the reward. And that the smart glasses being able to video record quickly or give direction quickly does not surpass what the current teaching staff is able to do with the devices that they're using in their classroom for instruction.
Right. Thank you. And for the record, I agree with you. I just wanted to hear your opinion. I do believe, without evidence, that smart glasses are more distracting than valuable in a classroom setting. But I'm happy to hear from students or their parents any arguments against it. But for now, I just cannot imagine how smart glasses can be beneficial to learning. So thank you.
So I agree with everything that's being said. I think at the same time, I think this really belongs in our AI policy. So I think as a compromise, I would be willing to propose a moratorium on AI eyewear. And the reason I say that is because I think this AI recording without permission, and this will develop in mobile phones, smartwatches, and other devices, and actually AI devices that we've never heard of. So rather than being device specific, I'd like to create a device neutral policy in our AI policy that bans recording others without their permission. Because I think that is a violation of a student's privacy. And we were just talking about belonging, and that is a great way to make someone feel that they don't belong. So I'm fine with banning it for now, and then figuring out a more because there may be benefits which I don't know about at this present time. And also right now it's only, they're very expensive, so it's only a few students. So it's not something that's going to affect a bunch of students where they're going to go, oh, I can't bring my, so I think for me, I'm okay with banning it for now, but I really would like to delve into this privacy issue. I think AI brings up a lot of privacy concerns, and I think we really need to have a sensible policy around that, and also how we can enforce that, because we can ban mobile phones during instruction time, which we do, but then, people can still take videos. And we have this problem now, right, of people taking videos without permission, and how do we deal with that as a district? And especially since very soon you'll just be able to someone will be able to say a keyword and then it will automatically start recording. So I'm very concerned about privacy. So I think we need to think about it holistically, but I'm okay with a moratorium for now.
Thank you.
So I would like to call the question and make the motion to approve the revised policy.
It's the first reading, so I believe
Oh,
it'll come back
Never mind.
after
Okay,
consolidated.
never mind, but yes, I think
thank you for the support.
for safety purposes, even if we'll need more policies in the future to address other issues involving safety, like privacy and stuff. At least this will help some.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, great. Okay, so next we have 14.3, district focus for the 2026-2027 academic year.
That's 14.4.
This-
Sorry, which
Yeah.
Superintendent Wilson will present.
This is a carryover from the conversation we had at the beginning of June last school year. There is a slight change. Instead of focusing on a portrait of a graduate, cabinet members and other administrators believe that AI should take a more prominent focus in the district, so that we could provide the leadership for not only students, but also staff as far as what is the appropriate use of AI, what is a positive use of AI, and so on. So the focus for this year, I'm suggesting looking at our multi-tiered systems of support. We've already looked at common language, looking at what those supports are providing for students, monitoring those supports with actual information, defining what we're actually trying to achieve with those supports. That would be focus number one. Focus number two would be alignment. We've been talking about it now for 2 years, actually focusing on it. We have a definition for what is alignment, that it is not lockstep adherence to a course of study, but that the goal is that students in the same course will have a similar outcome with the same effort and the same level of achievement. And then, of course, AI and a sub focus, and we've already worked with our student board members on Students of the Month, would be to focus on the portrait of a graduate as they introduce and as we celebrate our Students of the Month.
Thank you, Superintendent Volta. Please raise your hand if you have any clarifying questions about what Superintendent Volta said. We'll begin discussion once everyone understands his proposed focus. Vadim.
Sorry, I don't have a question. I have comments, so I'll wait until questions are answered.
Well, I don't think anyone has any questions, so I've seen none. Go ahead.
Theda, your microphone is not on, since I know what it is.
I'm so sorry. Let me repeat that. Seeing no one on the floor raising their hand, you may proceed.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that we are bringing and we are talking about this important topic, but I disagree with some of the prioritization of the items, and I think there is a gap without which we will not be successful at accomplishing the multi-tiered system of support. So I am going to read, in order to be very precise, given that I am online, I'm going to read what I wrote to make it clear, and I'm happy to share it with the board members and the superintendent afterwards. So this is a feedback. I'm trying to be very, I'm going to be a little more specific in my feedback, but I do accept that it is up to administration to decide how to instrument this rather than me suggesting specifics. Yet I don't want to be vague. So the first priority, per my opinion, should be alignment and measurement. The current proposal raises an important question under MTSS that I believe deserves to be the starting point rather than the sub-point. What supports are successful? How do we know? I'd encourage the administration to treat this as a prerequisite question for the year and not detail to resolve along the way. We cannot design or evaluate tiered supports without reliable, consistent way to measure student achievement across both high schools and all subjects. I'd also like to note that we have already determined that CASP is not a reliable measure of academic achievement for our purposes. That makes the components below more important, not less. We need alternative, trustworthy measures rather than defaulting back to a state test we've already concluded doesn't serve us well. So I'd like to ask administration to bring back a proposal covering the following. Number one, establish a 2-year baseline using existing SAT, PSAT, and AP data. Since we already collect this data, I'd like administration to compile the last 2 years of results by school, subject, and subgroup as a starting reference point. This baseline should sit alongside, not substitute for the quarterly assessment work below, given that SAT and AP participation is self-selected and does not capture students outside these pathways. Which brings me to the next point, quarterly common assessments per subject. Consistent across both high schools, integrated into regular class grading rather than separate testing event. This is a foundation, the only measure that includes every student and every subject from 9th grade forward regarding of AP or college testing enrollment. Third, SAT, PSAT participation as an access indicator. Rising SAT and PSAT participation, particularly among underrepresented groups such as English learners, is a meaningful lagging indicator that upstream supports are expanding access. AP results as a guardrail metric with a higher bar than typically used. As we focus on underserved students, I want to make sure that we don't inadvertently lower expectations or reduce support for high-achieving students. Given the caliber of this district, I'd encourage administration to treat even a score of 3 on AP as an undesirable outcome, not a passing benchmark to be satisfied with. The goal for our students should be preparing them to achieve a 4 or higher. Declining AP enrollment, declining grades of 4s and 5s, or reduced course offering would also be a signal worth watching. Then class grade to AP exam alignment is as an instructional validity metric. I've observed discrepancies between the grades students earn in the class and their AP exam results. I'd like administration to examine by course and section whether in-class grade distributions align with AP exam distributions, especially looking for patterns such as students earning A in the class but scoring 3 on the exam, or B in the class paired with a 1 or 2 on the exam. Given the standard above, A3 mismatch is itself a concern worth investigating, not just more obvious, A and a 1 or A and a 2. This points to a gap between classroom evaluation and the external standard worth understanding and addressing at the course level. It connects directly to the alignment goal already in the proposal. Finally, student assessment response time. This seems to be one of the most diverse experiences for students and families, as I can see discussions on WhatsApp groups and as parents reaching out to me as a board member. I would like to see district-wide alignment on expectation when and how graded assignments are returned to students, because this is one of the most effective feedback mechanisms for students to adjust and improve their learnings and outcomes. So these are just the ways that I would like to prioritize alignment and measurement section. Followed, if once we have that, we can focus on multi-tier support system, because now we can evaluate in a data-driven way how multi-tier support system actually affects student outcomes. So I fully support MTSS as a priority. It remains critical, but my recommendation is sequencing. MTSS design and evaluation should follow and be informed by the measurement infrastructure above. Without it, we risk allocating tiered support based on incomplete or biased data. Third, uniform AI policy. Fully support this. I'm excited to and looking forward to administration and student task force recommendations. And finally, portrait of a graduate. Again, also very much support keeping this as a revisit of our existing framework. My interest here is in supporting MVLA as an environment that fosters academic and emotional development grounded in collaborative, respectful, and diverse principles. I don't think this needs or should have any new metrics attached to it. It's a cultural and value commitment, not a data-driven target like the other 3 areas. So this was my feedback to the current proposal.
Thank you, Vadim.
Esme,
Esme?
say anything?
Just that I think for the top priority being the MTSS, I think is the right approach. I appreciate also the measures included for each, and I think those probably need a little bit more definition, which is I think part of the work. Is how I understand it. Is that?
Yeah, these were not meant to be prioritized. These 3 have an equal level of weight. And in terms of the measures, I could put a lot of things down, but I'm just trying to get something attainable by the end of this year. I mean, a lot of this work is going to take a great amount of collaboration with our educators, who, by the way, are teaching. And that's their primary job. And so this is going to take a long time. The real alignment work and collaboration work will happen next year once we institute our collaboration time bell schedule. Remember, we put that off for a year to get ready for the changes and start and stop and start times. So I think this is a good opportunity for us to sit back and say what is appropriate for alignment and what is not the definition of alignment, and working with our department coordinators and departments from Terry's office and so on. So yeah, the ones that are, we don't know what the end result's going to be other than to have a policy and actually have, and then the same thing as with AI, start with a policy and then start incorporating that. If you read the CDE policy, it's quite extensive. I think there's 24 items on that policy as far as things that we need to look at when it comes to AI.
It might be helpful then to have, if this is the direction, then maybe this is the next step, is to draft a rough timeline. And since this is a multi-year, it sounds like, right? And so having some visibility into that, since it's not intended to be, you know, focus on one, then two, and then three, but in parallel. Catherine.
Well, a couple of things. One is the number one seems to have like more detail for it than 2 and 3, but 2 and 3 need a lot more information and so on. The one thing I worry about for the MTSS is that most of the measures and so on, you know, it says what supports are successful and stuff, but all the measures have to seemingly do with academics more so than behavior and wellness. Although the wellness goes, and to some extent the behavior, with the graduate profile. But we need to kind of develop more in those other two wedges of what would be happening. I see this as kind of a rough top level outline, but I agree with Esme that we would need kind of a timeline. Okay, in which one are we going to start with? Or are we going to, in parallel, work a little bit on each, but how much do we, in a timeline, expect to get done in this year, like an MTSS, and maybe we only can concentrate in academics because we couldn't possibly do all 3 in 1 year or something like that. But then in alignment, how much of the kind of thing Vadim is mentioning are we going to incorporate, and what's the timeline for these things? And then the AI, we already had discussed that we're going to talk about not only policy, but start with a vision or whatever, and how we as a district, we talked about this before, interact with AI. So we need to start at the top and develop it all. How far are we going to get this year? So I kind of like to know your perspective on how far we could get on any given one of these in a given year, and whether we should do only one or all of them, but how much we would accomplish in a year, and start developing, you know, a more detailed plan with the different things we would try to do in each year.
If I could wave what I would like to accomplish this year is to come up with some type of progress report that we can do on a quarterly basis that would measure those types of improvements that we're looking for, whether they're the percentage of failures in underrepresented students. I know that school sites are working greatly on attendance rates and getting students in class. I think there should be some social emotional piece, not just wait for the Healthy Kids survey. I'm just talking about MTSS. So if we could come up with some kind of monitoring system over the course of the year, by the end of this year, that would be a win, as well as school sites thinking about their interventions in terms of the MTSS model. Those two things happen, that's a huge win on our part. In terms of alignment, if we can come up with a working definition for our educators as far as what is alignment by the end of this year, that would be a win. That's going to be hard because that takes a lot of work back and forth from Terry's office to teacher department meetings. And so if we can come up with an idea and a vision of what alignment looks like, what it is and what it isn't by the end of this year, that would be a win for us. If we can get certain departments to start experimenting with common assessments, even just one this year, that would be a win. So that would be the two things under alignment that I would hope for. And in terms of AI, a working AI policy, we're very close right now. It's not like we haven't been doing these things, coming up with a delivery for professional development for our teachers so that they can incorporate it, not ignoring AI and saying no AI in class. If we were to look at our two students, actually Miley's kind of smirking right now because I'm sure there is some level of AI use outside of the classroom to help understanding of topics. And so we need to embrace those positive aspects of AI as opposed to saying no AI. And so we need to come up with a policy, and we need to come up with professional development that can bring this along so we become one of the leaders in the use of appropriate AI use as opposed to just shunning it like my 5th grade teacher did when calculators became useful and manageable for homes to actually purchase when you actually were able to purchase a calculator from.
So are you talking, well, you mentioned the classroom use, but then also professional development, but where does the using it in IT or in administrative functions fit in? Or is that going to be in a different
I think
level, a different year?
when we talk about professional development, it's not only students' use or classroom use of AI, but it's also educator use of AI to be more efficient.
That's what we talk about for the business department or the different to that. So is that going to be put off to a different year? I mean, that's, I want to know where in the sequence that was.
Your mic is not on.
This is student edge outcome focused.
Okay.
More so than it is district office focused. I think it's a professional obligation for us to learn how to use AI tools to be more efficient in our job.
I'm sorry, Vadim. I was talking about use of it in the business office and other departments. And so Eric just clarified that at least at the beginning, we're not doing that. We're concentrating. Well, they'll be working on it on the side, but we're concentrating on the professional development for the teachers and the use in the classroom more so than in the other departments. Is that what you said, Eric?
That's what I said. So the approval is, the focus is on MTSS, AI, and alignment. That's the focus. And as we move through the course of the year, the iterations of what that looks like may change. We may get more done than we want, or we may hit some roadblocks, but that's got to be a focus so that we don't. And the reason for a focus is so that we don't spend our time on other issues as they come up, but we say, this is what we want to make sure we spend our cabinet time on. This is what we spend our executive cabinet time on. This is what, as principals are looking at their site meetings, this is a focus, and we need to make sure that we constantly come back to those three things. And so that's what I'm asking the board, is to say that those three things are the important focus for the year. And some of these measures, some of these things, I was somewhat hesitant to put these up here because they may change.
Okay. So what, number 4, sorry, that wasn't mentioned, is that?
Well, 4 is sort of kind of an option. I put it up there because I know it was important to some board members. However, I will be spending time on 4 and working with people that recognize students at various times. This will be a project that we can take on in the Superintendent's Advisory Council as well, in terms of defining what those tenants look like on a high school campus, and what our opportunities on our campus to work on and get better at those values that we have on a portrait of a graduate.
Can surveys participate? Well, in some of the MTSS, like behavior and wellness, but also in in the graduate profile of asking students questions that would indicate whether they've gained some of these attributes.
Well, that might be something that comes out of the Superintendent's Advisory Committee that Miley and Kapil will work on a little bit. So that could be the direction that our students take with that.
Okay, are we ready to call the question? All right, may I have a motion?
Just a second.
Vadim, sorry, go ahead.
Right. So I disagree with this focus. I think it lacks the key element that we spent so much time on last year, and that's ability for us to agree on the proper measurement of student achievement. We don't have it. And this focus does not properly emphasize elevating that agreement. Alignment among teachers is a necessary part, but it's secondary to agreeing on what that achievement looks like. You cannot reach it without alignment, but you don't prioritize alignment first, because what's the purpose of that alignment? That becomes unclear to me. So the measure where we could say, this is how we are constantly, regularly measure student achievement, is what I believe is necessary, what I would like to see us focus on.
In case of the one apologize.
There was no prioritization, so I don't know how to.
So Vadim, I don't know if you heard that this is not a prioritized list. This is a list that the superintendent is going to work on all 3 things. And then
Yeah, but none of this, that's fine. I understand, and that's okay. I offer my opinion as a prioritization, but the common framework for measuring student achievement is not listed here. It needs to be top and center, like it has to be its own bullet item that you can say, well, it's one of the priorities, it's not the top priority, that's fine. But I would elevate creation of the framework that measures student achievement, because CASP is a useless test for measuring student achievement. As we determined through our discussion and investigation of CASP and how students participate in it and what they do and why the English responses to the English questions so wildly out of sync with student achievement. To me, it has to be the #1 priority for the district and for the administration is to establish a framework.
The challenge, and I hear what you're saying, Vadim, but the challenge is that in every educational institution, multiple measures are used
to determine the success of a school district. This is something that the state of California has been trying to develop since 1997. First with the STAR exams, then with the high school exit exams, API era. Now we're in the CASP era. SAT scores, not all students take the SAT. Not all schools actually require the SAT. PSAT, it's not mandatory to take. Our teachers do not teach to the SAT and PSAT. So to measure students on the SAT or PSAT is not necessarily a measure of the effectiveness of our teachers. It's a measure of the effectiveness of the student on that particular test. AP scores, we talked about this last spring. What do we value? Do we value 4s and 5s, or do we value students pushing themselves to take an AP class for the first time? And do we celebrate a 3 for that student, or do we even celebrate a 2 for the student that has never taken an AP class, wanted to push themselves, challenge themselves, and enrolled in an AP class? So having a set measure, I mean, that part is difficult. I think it's more important to say, these are the things that we are trying to improve on our campus. And these are the interventions that we're using, and how can we monitor those interventions and the effectiveness? Looking at CAS scores, I think CAS scores for some students, it's a very important measure. I think a lot of people would take great pride knowing that 8 out of 10 students or 4 out of 5 students are at standard. In some subgroups, 9 out of 10 students are at standard for a test that they don't like to take and that they don't take seriously. So I've thought a lot about a simple metric for our success. I keep going back to the state dashboard and college and career indicators and things of that nature. That's not a perfect indicator. LPAC scores, all of it is important.
My answer to that would be, the state of California has a huge problem trying to come up with a standardized mechanism for a 40 million population with a variety of schools. At MVLA, we can solve this problem locally and not rely on the state of California. So let's solve it locally. Otherwise, every other discussion about how good our MTSS system is, how good AP seminar is, becomes less relevant because we do not agree. And I particularly struggled the whole last year. Every time I hear a presentation how wonderful something is, I do not evaluate how wonderful something is because Eric said this or Terry said that. That's your evaluation. I want data that will inform me, and I will agree with your evaluation or I will disagree with the evaluation, but I need to do it based on the data. I don't have that data. And I believe none of the board members have that data. So my request is for administration to propose a set of data that we can agree is valuable for us. And CASP is not it. Then we can start implementing all other recommendations, whether it's MTSS, APs, and whatever else it is, SATs, because we have a common set of data that we can measure the performance of the students against. So I think waiting for the state of California to solve this is not the right move. The fact that they cannot solve this, and they will never solve this, in my opinion, isn't something that should prevent MVLA from solving this locally.
So I hear what you're saying about CAS and our students who write no on the essay, right? Obviously, we're not going to get their best performance. What I think we are seeing, though, is we have seen improvement in our English language learners. They're scoring green for the first time. And I think every subpopulation should be scoring green. Because that's, And we're scoring blue overall, which is better than green. But to me, that's kind of the floor, and we're not there yet. So that's why I think it's a useful metric, because in some of our subgroups, not in all of our subgroups, and I agree for high achieving students, they're already can take this test in their sleep. If they took it seriously, they would absolutely score blue. But for some of our students, it is still a struggle to take that test. They're taking it seriously, depending on their culture and how their parents talk to them about the test. And yet they're still not scoring the way we would like every student to score green. And that's not happening. So I think until we've reached that threshold, I think CAS still remains a useful metric for subpopulations that are not performing according to the rest of our school, which is blue. And, at least green is a good indicator. Yellow or red is not. Red is underperforming. And we consistently have subgroups that are underperforming. So I think for those groups, CASP is useful because that is a standardized test. While our teachers do not teach the test, it is supposed to be a metric of what they have learned in high school. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. It is one test they take on a day in 11th grade. And, maybe they have a bad day or they feel sick or something. But I still think that until we can point to everyone being at that level of green, I think it's still a valid metric. And actually our LCAP is built around, one of the things it's built around is how are our students doing on our CAS? There are also other metrics, and I think, to your point, different metrics apply to different subsections of students. For example, our English language learners are obviously not going to take the SAT or the PSAT. So that is not a valid metric for those students. So I think we need to be looking at our different populations of students, and to Eric's point, be thinking about what are the meaningful metrics for those students. I would say for high achieving students, a metric that is useful, I agree with you, is the PSAT. A lot of students take the PSAT, and a meaningful metric is how many, and we know this, how many national merit semifinalists do we have? How many national merit finalists do we have? This is a standardized national thing. But again, it's for our high achieving students. It is not for our, many students with disabilities can't access the test. So there are a variety of barriers. So I think it's not a one size fits all. It's looking at different populations of students.
I would like to actually go back to the original question of if we are going to have these priorities or not. And I don't think that Vadim necessarily agrees, but I feel that the measurement has to be done no matter what our priorities are. And that is a parallel activity that we are always collecting data. It's just, are we collecting all the right data yet? As the different examples that Vadim gives, or the different subpopulations. And maybe what we need is a matrix of what data applies to which group, and kind of a way to funnel a given student through which data makes sense for them in more than just one at a time, some categories. I don't know, but I think we can do both. I think we can work more on our describing our measurements a little bit better, iterative refinement. And we can also work on these three priorities towards getting our students to produce the answers in those measurements that we want to see. So I would like to propose that we agree with Eric's outline, it's just an outline at this point, that the three things we would want to focus on for getting the answers to these measurements are the MTSS, the alignment, and whatever use we're going to use of AI. And as a parallel track, we need to work on a better description of our measurements and what makes sense in what group, and lay that out so that the board and the public in general understands that. That would be
Okay.
my point.
Thank you, Catherine. It sounds like we're ready to call the question. May I have a motion?
That I move that we agree with the outline of the three focuses Eric presented, plus work on refining our description of measurements.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so moved by Catherine, seconded by Esme. Let's see, Miley, how do you vote?
I approve.
Kapil, how do you vote?
I approve.
Okay, board, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Vadim, are you abstaining or voting no?
I'm voting no.
Okay, all right, so that is 3-1, with one being a no. Okay, so now we move on to 14.5, textbook instructional materials for the 2026-2027 year. This is our annual certification to the state. Please raise your hand if you have any questions or comments before we consider a motion. All right.
Just want to say thank you to Terry and everybody for keeping this massive list all the time for us, so that we even have something to approve. And I move that we approve that the materials to requests.
Thank you, Catherine. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Catherine, seconded by Esme. All right. Kapil, how do you vote?
I approve.
Miley, how do you vote?
I approve.
Board, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's 4-0. Okay, next we have 14.6, which is the adoption of resolution number 2026-2027-1, textbooks and instructional materials. This is an annual resolution, which is pretty much the same as, but it's a resolution for us. Please raise your hands if you have any questions or comments before we consider a motion. Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion?
I move that we adopt the resolution 2627-1, textbook and instructional materials, which just means we're going to use the materials we just picked in the previous action.
Okay, thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Catherine, seconded by Esme. All right. Miley, how do you vote?
I approve.
Kapil, how do you vote?
I approve.
Okay. All right, board, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. All right. Now we move on to 19.0. Sure, that's true. Yes, we move on to 15.0, board operations, and we move on to 15.1, board suggestions for future board reports/meetings. Yes, we've discussed it a lot. So does anyone have any suggestions or does anyone have any suggestions? All right, seeing none.
I do.
Oh, you do. I'm so sorry. I didn't see your hand. Go ahead.
I do. So want to bring up a request that I made in the last school year when we evaluated AP seminar discrepancy between grades the students get in the classroom and the AP scores. Now that we've completed full school year, I would like to look at the AP scores for this year for AP seminar and also the grades and have the discussion of how well AP seminar prepares students for AP exam. And but I don't mind at all, broadening that discussion to all AP classes, looking at what is a correlation between the grade students get in the class and the AP exam score that they get. Because AP seminar may not be unique, there might be other classes where there is, in my opinion, significant inconsistency.
I believe that's already on our, we're already having a study session or a presentation in September with the AP scores.
Perfect, thank you.
Great. All right, anything else?
And may I just say, do we have a list? You probably put it in one of your weeklies or whatever, which months things are coming up in. Is that true?
We are in the process of posting our board calendar, and also in an update to the board, I put down requests and when we will potentially be able to have those discussion and study sessions. If we limit it to one board request plus the normal things, we're into October right now with requests.
Okay. All right. Are we ready to move on?
It doesn't have
Esme?
to be immediately, but just the next steps around the focus areas, in terms of whether we're talking about timeline or more detail about any one of the areas. I'm not sure what you were envisioning in terms of level of frequency to update the board or give some progress, but it's probably somewhere on the list.
Thank you, Esme. Okay, anything else? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to 15.2, communication/correspondence. Superintendent Volta, you have the floor.
None tonight.
All right, moving on to 15.3, legislative updates. Superintendent Volta, you again have the floor.
I emailed you legislative updates from school services and updates regarding budget. One of the biggest, two really big things this year would be paid disability pregnancy leave up to 14 weeks. Although we agree with the ideals of that will become an unfunded mandate for MVLA as an unfunded district. Other schools and other school districts received a bump in COLA to help pay for it. And then the other piece is the fact that California Department of Education will be changing as the elected state superintendent of public instruction will no longer be the chief executive of CDE, but will have more of a ceremonial role. And the lead officer for CDE will be the governor's appointment.
Thank you. Does anyone have any? Please raise your hand if you have any questions or comments on what was just said. All right, seeing none, we're gonna move on to our next board meeting, which is August 17th, right here in the boardroom in the district office. And all the board meetings for the 2026-27 school year are listed in this packet for your reference. I'm not going to read all of them. And we will now resume closed session. Thank you for attending.